Welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. We would like to thank our sponsors. Dr. Mulder's Wishing Machine, the most affordable radionics machine found online. Amplify your manifestations as the wishing machine aids you in bringing your abundance to life. Visit freecharm.com/bradjohnson.html for more info and to purchase your wishing machine. Link is available in the video description. Portal to Ascension, online conscious events from renowned experts all over the world. Find out the latest scheduled seminars by visiting portaltoascension.org. Link is available in the video description. And Pot of Gold YouTube channel, profound compilation videos that share deep levels of truth and disclosure information. Link is available in the video description. And now your host of the Reality Whisperer Webcast, Brad Johnson. Enjoy the show. Hello everybody, welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. Sorry we're starting off a little bit late. I was trying to get the chat room. Sorry, let me just take my phone out. I was trying to get the chat room online, but unfortunately YouTube wasn't allowing me to get the chat room online, even though I was going into the settings. So it doesn't look like we're going to have an interactive chat tonight, which kind of sucks because I always enjoy those. So basically, we're just going to be going through the presentation tonight about investigating the moon, and Adronis is going to be coming through. He's going to be talking about the moon's perspective as well too, from his point of view. And he's also going to be sharing some other announcements tonight. And of course, then we're going to be wrapping up the show. So it'll be kind of a short show tonight, unfortunately, because there is no live chat. So I just want to take YouTube right now and just kind of squeeze them a little bit, just finding out that there is no chat room. So again, I apologize for everybody who wanted to be on the chat tonight, who may have had some questions for myself or for Adronis. We're going to try and get around to that next week and find out what's happening. But again, the chat option is not happening tonight. So again, my additional apologies for that for everybody who is very interested in interacting with the show, which is pretty much what the Reality Whisperer Webcast is all about. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and move into some announcements here. So we do have the Reality Whisperer library that is now online. And again, you can just go to realitywhisperer.com and check it out, or you can just go directly to the website. And the website is realitywhispererlibrary.com. And there's a lot of different pay-per-view webinars that are there. There's courses, DVDs. There's also going to be the Adronis archive episodes, which are basically going to be unique private channeling sessions where Adronis's information is just going to be brought out. All the other people that were part of those sessions are basically being edited out of the episodes, and we're just getting more of the general information for Adronis. And so those particular episodes are going to be coming up in the next week or two relating to the library. So there's a lot of projects that I'm starting with here, but the library has really been a great success so far. And it's a really, really great, kind of like Netflix-like library where you can access all of this amazing content. And basically, I'm building it up to about over 100 hours worth of content that's going to come through. And we're also going to have some future pay-per-view webinars coming up, and they will be immediately brought into the Reality Whisperer library once they are fully converted and then moved into the database. So that is where all future pay-per-view webinars and, of course, the Adronis archived episodes are going to be. So that is, again, the Reality Whisperer library. You can check it out, realitywhispererlibrary.com. Okay, and starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, that's 3 p.m. Pacific, Dream Mastery, Evolving the Conscious, Subconscious, and Superconscious Mind. And this is going to be something that is co-associated together with Portal to Ascension. And so I'm going to be presenting this amazing presentation that will contain information about how you can connect the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious mind together as this triad, and working very, very deeply within the dream plane. So this is something you may want to check out as well too. Sorry, my phone just keeps going off here. Yeah. So again, my apologies, guys, that I didn't have a chat room on tonight. I'm sorry about that. So I'm just getting some messages from people here on Facebook. Okay, someone just told me that the chat room here is working for the viewers. Okay, well, good. Because I've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So let me see if I can reload my page and see if I can get the chat room on. Okay, great. We do have the chat room online. So one of our great viewers was just trying to message me on Facebook and just let me know that it's online. So I basically have to put it on pop-out chat there. All right, so we do have a chat room. Yay, that's awesome. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to get back into the swing of things here. But Dream Mastery, again, is happening tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific. So again, feel free to go to realitywhisperer.com and you can sign up for the online event. And again, it is being co-associated with Portal to Ascension. So I'm really looking forward to this amazing presentation that's going to happen tomorrow. Got a lot of stuff, a lot of amazing stuff that's going to be shared in this particular event online. And of course, my friend Neil Gore, who is the founder of Portal to Ascension, is going to be coming on as a special guest the next about 2 or 3 weeks here. We're going to be doing a special Reality Whisperer episode, and he will be coming on, and together we're going to be talking about extraterrestrial disclosure. So there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pipe here in the next couple of weeks. And of course, finally, we have Inside the Secret Space Program, which is again going to feature myself and Elena Kapolnik and Justin Ybarra. And this is going to be on Sunday, June 26th. So it's coming up this coming Sunday. And it's going to be happening on Google Plus Hangouts at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. It is a free interview that's taking place. So you just go to realitywhisperer.com. You'll find the link there, and you can feel free to join us. As we're going to be talking about some more amazing stuff, updates as well. Again, Adronis tonight has some updates he's going to be sharing. And then, of course, then we can now go into Q&A after tonight's presentation. So those are the announcements for tonight. And, of course, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Again, sorry, it's been a bit of a hectic week, just trying to get a lot of things done and taken care of, coming back from kind of a short mini vacation as well, too. But tonight, again, is very, very exciting as we're going to be talking about investigating the moon. So basically, the moon has always been something that we have always been so curious about. Did we actually go to the moon in that way? The answer is yes, but we did not go there through the idea of that old live broadcast that we had seen back in the late 60s. That was part of a superficial aspect of the moon landing, but there have been presences based upon the moon from our people since the early 1950s at least. But we're going to get more into the slides here, and we're going to start off with the first one here, investigating the moon. So we're going to look more into the heart of the moon and saying that, well, is it true that the moon is not originally from the star system? Yes, that's true. It has been said that the moon once existed within the Pleiades star cluster, and then it was transported to Ursa Minor, and then to our system as one of Maldek's moons. So again, the super Earth that was once part of our star system, once known as Maldek, basically when that was alive, I guess you could say still, the moon was basically one of its satellites. Now, according to Adronis, he has also stated that not only was the moon one of Maldek's satellites, but so was Ceres, so was Mars, so was Earth, so was Venus, and so was Mercury. So basically these inner chain of planets were once in the orbital path of Maldek, again, this large super Earth. And that they were, there was a lot of talk, I know from a lot of the secret space program insiders, about Mars and Maldek being at war, and basically they were fighting it out. But it's just such an obviousness that when you really look into a lot of the planets, save Earth, in our star system, that a lot of them have been ravaged from war. A lot of different ruins, explosions, craters, a lot of different forms of altercations and skirmishes, and huge amounts of war have been part of our star system, perhaps even dating back millions and millions of years. And one has to really ask themselves, really not just looking at the moon, but looking into the star system and saying that, well, if we've had a lot of these particular wars, we're looking at how Mars was ravaged, we're looking at the asteroid belt that was once Maldek. Also, according to one of my insiders, Elena Kapolnik, is that Saturn itself, its rings are manufactured. It was meant to be manufactured as a weapon, as a type of amplification device to destroy, who knows, fleets, ships, or other particular forms of phenomena. And so there was a lot of weaponization that was happening here in the star system. And again, the moon was just one piece, one part of this immense battleground that has been our star system. And so really we're just looking at that. When you're looking at one of the most prestigious planets, Earth is all that's left. We could have seen a long time ago, Venus as a beautiful Earth-like planet, Mars as a beautiful Earth-like planet, then of course we had Meldick as the super Earth planet. It may also have been theorized that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus also had a lot more livable ecosystems upon their planet, and that they themselves could have been ravaged by war as well too. So there's a lot of stuff happening in our star system, and one just has to wonder, is this like a red-hot real estate? Is there something really, really interesting about this star system that has been ravaged so much by war, ravaged so much by a lot of destruction and conflict? What has really been going on? And it's really kind of looking about where we are right now here on planet Earth as human beings, and we're starting to see how we are growing, how we are developing, how we are evolving. And it makes one wonder that a lot of these particular forms of destructions, these forms of conflict and chaos and war that took place in the past, is the aspect of those from the future coming back from the past to create a lot of this particular type of warfare based upon a very simple star system. Our star system in that sense is not quote-unquote rare jewel as it pertains to orientation of planets. We are seeing again through many different forms of disclosure pertaining to NASA of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different Earth-like planets that are out there. And again, many different forms of habitable globes in that particular way. And so one has to wonder about why was there so much attention as it relates to Earth, as it relates to the star system, as it relates to our moon. What has been happening? And so this may theorize that there have been beings from what we would perceive as our future that have come back and basically waged war on this particular star system, in that sense, to maintain a type of control. Because again, when you're looking at the greater scheme of things into the distant future, you can see exactly what humanity has become. So it feels like we have had an original cyclic plan, having the moon here on Earth and being able to see humanity really grow and really evolve. And being able to notice that something that spectacular could happen could, in that sense, actually attract a great deal of attention from beings from other particular dimensional realities and other dimensional lines or world lines or timelines, and being able to funnel themselves from a great distant future coming into the great distant past, again looking at it linearly, and being able to try and start some shit here, I guess you'd say, in the best way of putting it. So that is basically one particular aspect of a theory, is being able to look at that we're not just looking at something that is concurrent. We don't look at a timeline in regards to how we see it on a linear fashion. Everything, when you go into interdimensional space, when you start becoming a galactic community, everything is nonlinear. And so you're looking at everything in regards to the idea of dimensional lines about what possibilities that are there. So it would not be of any surprise to see some of these particular beings, again from great distances of future from our perspective, that have come here and said, wow, look what humanity is becoming. They look like they're the new kids on the block, and it looks like they're going to be getting a lot of favoritism in the galactic community because of their genetics, because of who they are, because that they are contrast surfers. I don't like the sound of that. I think I'm going to start getting my armadas together. I'm going to start talking to a lot more of my associations, and we're going to start intervening here, right? And that was before the time of unregulated dimensional or time travel. And so you'd have many of these different beings coming from different realities coming here and being able to create these armadas, create these stations, these monitoring posts, everything, and being able to amass this type of empire that, again, was all part of moving in and bringing themselves into the super Earth, Meldick, because that's where everything began. So it would be of no surprise, just from what I'm receiving here intuitively. The moon's beginning, coming into Maldek. Who can say in regards to the state of polarity of the moon at that time? But basically nesting itself into the orbit of Maldek to function as this particular satellite for it. And then, of course, when Maldek was on the brink of destruction, the moon moved in and was able to transport many of the survivors from Maldek. And again, this is also being confirmed by several different secret space program insiders, being able to see that the moon served as an ark and was actually able to transport, who knows, thousands or even millions of different beings off the planet Maldek before destroyed. And being able to salvage a lot of those particular forms of valuable life forms in that way, and then being able to bring it to Mars. And then, of course, being able to eventually bring a lot of that life onto Earth. So it does function together as an arc. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself with the slides here, so let me see if we can catch up here. So yes, the moon is a hollow spacecraft. When Maldek was destroyed, the moon functioned as an evac arc, gathering survivors and transporting them to the Earth. So this is just kind of an image I saw on Google Images. And I thought, you know what, that gives a pretty good representation to what may exist within the moon. And the moon later took up its orbit upon the Earth to function as a monitoring station and laboratory. At least 22 or more extraterrestrial species are operating on the moon at this time. There are again a lot of different theories pertaining to perhaps even 40 or even 50 or more different civilizations that are functioning together through some type of truce right now. That again, there's beings that have a lot of love and appreciation and are in harmony with humanity that are on the moon, and there are those that have none of that with us that are on the moon. And so it's basically, if you were to look into the idea of the benefactors and the regressives, both of them represent themselves on the moon. But there has been, in that sense, such an incredible treaty put together, I'm assuming probably by councils, that everybody is just basically following suit. That even though there's beings there that do not like each other, they are respecting their particular truce and saying that, all right, we really don't like you, but you know what, we're gonna obey the truce. I guess it also represents the idea not of something that's just signed on paper, but something that could represent a soul contract, an energetic agreement, something in regards to, again, other particular councils that exist in different dimensions that are kind of like the overseers of this particular type of contract. Now, what type of beings in that sense would be on the moon that could have 22 species or more? From what Adronis has stated, he says these are beings that have some type of karmic ties as it relates to humanity. So basically those who have been actually the contributors, which again represent the 22 different genetic species contained within our DNA, the 22 different genetic programs, as both Corey Good and Alex Collier has talked about in the past. And being able to see that they have some type of responsibility. Again, some may see the idea of just kind of tweaking with the genetics in regards to seeing what they could learn, perhaps to scrutinize, perhaps to understand more about what type of DNA codes can be integrated into their own bodies as well too. And of course, those who may feel that there are control factors relating to our chromosomes, relating to our mitochondria, to our DNA gene keys, and are basically locking certain things up so that humans don't get there. So it's really just a giant smorgasbord. It's like going to a salad bar. You have so many different options. And this basically represents our genetics. We're genetic soup. And so basically beings are just kind of diving in, and there have been, from Adronis' perspective, 39 different versions of the human template from the beginning of our inception to where we are right now. So basically with the new children coming upon the planet, this represents the 39th inception pertaining to a massive tweaking of human genetics. And that a lot of our particular forms of genetics pertaining to the 22 different groups is very convoluted. It's in that sense almost contradictory in certain ways. Some aspects are again highly logical or highly analytical, and others that represent an extreme state of emotion, right? So there's again a lot of different dances as it relates to our gene keys, as it relates to our own genetics, as it pertains to this form pertaining to the idea of genome. And so we have a lot of different forms of contradictory aspects of DNA. And there's been a lot of tweaking going along. And one may ask, well, how do these beings actually tweak our DNA? What is it that actually happens? The sun. The sun is basically the key in regards to how our DNA is actually being mutated, is actually being transmutated. And so they will actually work together in light synthesis to actually help to calibrate the light codons. So basically everybody that's on this planet that has been exposed to sun is basically compromised to the idea of this reversioning of DNA. So again, from what Adronis has shared, is that the sun is primarily responsible for all of the synthesis pertaining to instructions contained within light that is then interacting together with DNA. DNA is just a light factory. It's a hologram factory. And so we're basically being recoded just by stepping outside, just by seeing the sun, even just by having it come through the window here, like with me here. Being recoded as we speak. And of course, everything else absorbs that. So you have nature, you have vegetation, you have plants, you have the animals, you have the atmosphere. Everything is absorbing that particular type of energy and continuing to spread it out like a field. And so that is basically how we are always being re-renditioned in that particular way, revamped as it relates to our own genetic programs, the 22. So again, a lot of different beings here on the moon. And of course, if we're looking back into a lot of forms of theories about what people have stated about why we haven't gone back to the moon as well too, and a lot of the common answers has been because they don't want us there. They don't want us on the moon. You're not supposed to be there. It is a monitoring station. It is a laboratory. Again, several of the secret space program insiders, from Corey Goode to Randy Kramer to Alina Kapolnik, have all stated that Lunar Operations Command is there, and it's again a very secret space program organization, and that there's a lot of just concealed secrets there, and a lot of these beings will not come forward and talk about what's happening on the moon, because that would basically ruin the entire social experiment that's happening here. And that's basically what's happened. It's not only just a genetic experiment that's going on pertaining to humanity. Adronis has said several times, this is a social experiment. Basically everything that's happening in regards to Earth, you could almost see it as an untelevised reality program. That would basically sum up humanity and Earth, because there are so many observers, not just on the moon, but basically a lot of different forms of beings that will come here and just observe and scrutinize in their own way through permissions that they have been given, and being able to just observe humanity. It's like we're on a stage, and it's like we're just surrounded by these mirrors, and these mirrors are just reflecting back to ourselves and saying, oh, okay, yeah, we're just living our daily life, and we're going through this, and we're going through that. And of course, beyond those mirrors, kind of like the mirrors you would see in a police station, the interrogation room, right? The interrogation mirrors. We're seeing all these different beings just kind of, okay, yeah, that's how they react when this happens. Interesting, all this amazing stuff. And so we have beings just coming from different dimensions, different realities, different planets, different star systems, just to check us out and say, hey, this is cool. It's a very amazing about what these humans are doing, that they pretend that they're all separated. They all seem to have a hard-on for technology a little too much, I think. They have this whole individuality thing, this whole separation thing. It's fascinating, right? And so basically this is kind of how we're part of this social experiment that's happening, because thousands and thousands and thousands of different beings throughout who knows how long, decades, centuries, millennia, have come to this planet and just wanted to kind of take a look at it. They won't even come to the surface. They'll just look at certain things and observe things from afar, energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, and being able to see exactly what makes us tick, to find out exactly how this species is behaving. That has 22 different genetic programs that some are even very contradictory to its own nature. And so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of questions about these guys and saying, how the hell did you create a race that has 22 different genetic programs that have certain programs that contradict with one another? The hell did you pull that off? So I'm sure they may have a lot of questions about that as well too. But again, that's us. We're really just looking into us being this social experiment, and it really just basically looks at the idea that there's really two things that are our prize here: Earth and human beings. It's such a prize. We need Earth to survive. We need Earth to live. We need Earth to function. But really, when you look at the idea of the human being, it is so alien as it compares to everything else relating to nature. Everything with nature on Earth works together, communicates together, harmonizes together. Humanity is the only aspect of that element of nature that does not get along with nature itself. They're learning, but the whole idea in that sense is that this is an alien concept, is actually bringing these aliens upon Earth. And we're those aliens. We have no clue whatsoever to fully connect with nature. We don't have a complete clue on that. And so this is very, very fascinating. There's been a lot of ancient teachings, and there will still be those scarce little groups around the planet that are starting to learn, but still not even close to tapping into the potential of nature. And so this is what we are attempting to learn. We are aliens that have come here and popped ourselves on the planet to try and figure out exactly how we work. And the reason being, in that sense, I'm kind of getting off point to the moon, but I'm going to get to it in a sec, because this is just stuff that's coming through. And again, just being able to be popped upon the Earth. And the reason why is because once we are able to fully integrate ourselves in regards to the nature codes, you're looking at gods. That's basically the whole thing. That's how powerful humanity is. That's how amazingly designed we are. That if we really integrate ourselves, integrate our gene keys, integrate our DNA, integrate the energies together with nature, communicate with nature, communicate with one or another, there's no longer any separation. There's no longer any particular forms of individuality that creates any particular type of stagnation or, again, conflict. We are seeing such an advancement with ourselves that, again, we would not be functioning in these flesh bodies. It would be something that is so grandiose and so incredible, you just couldn't describe it with words. That is where humanity will 100% definitely go. When? We don't know. That's a progression, because humanity has been intervened upon over and over and over again. The only way, and this is what Adronis is kind of telling me here in the background, the only way that a species themselves could have been so intervened upon throughout history, throughout so many different centuries, is if there have been other particular beings from the future that have come to the past to change it, to alter it, to self-destruct humanity. This is exactly what has happened. So from what Adronis is telling me right now, and he's going to be getting into this in a little bit, is that there have been certain travelers, certain groups that have come together from a very distant future. They saw exactly what humanity is going to become and saying, F this, no way. There's no way that we're going to allow humans to be the new gods of this universe. We're putting a stop to this right now. And so before regulated time travel was developed, basically opening up these wormholes, coming in through starlight, coming in through different stargates from the suns, being able to intervene on this planet and basically trying to be these tricksters and basically trying to contaminate humanity by saying, we are gods, we help to create humanity, we help to create, we'll tell them we created them. Yeah, okay, that's it, that'll work great, right? And we'll come upon this planet and we'll screw you up, but we'll make it think that we're the ones that have been your masters. We're the creators. We're your mother and your father. We're the parents as it relates to your creation, where that is completely untrue. Again, we're looking at 22 different extraterrestrial races that were all part of our creation, that assisted in our engineering. Not one race is responsible for that. This requires a community. This was a community project pertaining to humanity. Why was humanity constructed in this way? Because basically these particular beings that you could refer to as the 22 masters in that way were basically guided to participate in this program. It's all part of universal will, galactic will, planetary will, humanity will. And so basically that is why we have been created. And so again, as Adronis just told me, that the only way that you have these many interventions upon the planet is through the idea of time travel shenanigans, right? Is to basically have all of these different interdimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings coming here and effing things up in that particular way. So again, Adronis will be talking a little bit more about that in the next few minutes here. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Ancient structures and ruins on the moon. So when Maldek was destroyed, the moon functioned as an evac arc, gathering survivors and transporting them to Earth. The moon later took up, I think I was already on that slide, wasn't I? Sorry about that, guys. Let's move on to the fourth one. Okay, so we're going to look onto ancient structures, ruins on the moon. So these are just some simple images I was just able to grab online. And again, they just show some very interesting structures as we know the moon to be. From what the Apollo missions were able to bring back, and just being able to see a lot of these different forms of structures, ruins, ancient cities, even ancient spacecraft that were actually shot down and went through, again, a great barrage of different skirmishes. So again, looking at some of these different hidden installations, these hidden structures. You guys can't actually see my mouse moving over them, but it's just kind of looking at that, and you know that there are certainly intelligently designed structures here on the moon. Basically bases that you can find in the crevices of the moon, basically domes that once had perhaps glass or transparent aluminum, one of the two, that were shattered and destroyed. Again, installations that, again, you can see the shadow work with a lot of this. Bases, temples, underground entrances that lead to underground installations. It's vast, and this is just a cookie crumb. I have so many different types of ruins and ancient structures that we've seen in regards to these images through the Apollo missions and other sources. And so here again, see these kind of canals and craters, and we're seeing a pyramid here as well too. It's insane, and we're just seeing a lot of these things. So if we were to go over to the other side of the moon, I don't want to say the dark side of the moon because the sun still shines on it, but the concealed side of the moon in that way, we would just say this enrichment of different structures, of different buildings, ancient ruins, pyramids, temples, again, everything, domed cities, ones that were just destroyed. And it's very, very interesting because we look at a lot of these things and saying, well, won't they consider repairing a lot of this stuff? If we're seeing like domes that were shattered and destroyed, wouldn't it make sense to go and change that? And the answer is no, because everything in regards to what it is must be preserved. And if there is any attempt to change that, that would be ill-advised. The reason being is because anybody that goes in and actually changes these things will be subject to karma. This is, again, what Adronis is telling me right now. If you actually went and you repaired these things, you would be subject to karma. And you would actually violate certain forms of aspects pertaining to the treaty that maintains that free will. Everything needs to be left as it is. You cannot touch it. You touch it, you're going to be karmically bonded to that aspect. And there's a lot of war, a lot of conflict, a lot of aggression, a lot of hatred pertaining to those destroyed structures. And so this is, again, why a lot of the beings on the moon keep their hands off that stuff, right? And so you're looking at wrecked spacecraft, you're looking at, again, destroyed cities, you're looking at all of these bombardments from many different skirmishes and conflicts, and everything is to be left as it is. You do not touch it. It's the same thing with Mars as well too. We once saw or once had an idea of a very beautiful ancient Earth-like planet like Mars, and Mars was destroyed. Now, why wasn't Mars able to be rebuilt? Because of that karmic approach. There needs to be a collective agreement. And here's the funny thing, again, Adronis is just popping in here and saying this. There needs to be a collective agreement pertaining to the idea of reassemblement. So you basically have to have a collective agreement through everything that impacts the idea of something that was once destroyed and now it's going to be rebuilt, that is going to be noticed by the collective. So basically, we need to come together as a unified people. And once there is disclosure and an exposure pertaining to what has actually happened, now because there is awareness relating to that, these aspects pertaining to the moon can be repaired. These aspects pertaining to Mars can be repaired. Aspects pertaining to Venus can be repaired. Aspects to Mercury can be repaired. Aspects to Jupiter, to Saturn, to Neptune, to Uranus, and all of its satellites can be repaired. But because there is not a full collective agreement pertaining to everything that has happened within our past, anybody that attempts to try and repair a lot of these different things without the consensus of the collective consciousness can be anchored to certain forms of karmic situations that relate to those particular aspects of destruction. And because there are thousands or even say millions of years of conflict upon this star system, you don't want to have that kind of karma. So basically, this is how we truly operate as it relates to a galactic community. It's nothing like what Star Trek or Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica or anything that tells you. This is, again, just what's coming through. Everything is so deeply spiritual, deeply, karma created in that particular way, and again, manifested in that form of way. You really have to develop yourself as a spiritual species to really get an understanding of the greater picture as it relates to being part of an interstellar community, a greater community in that way. You cannot just dick around and basically say, oh, okay, this is broken here. There's a dome here that's broken. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get a team together. We're going to fix it. And when that happens, now you basically associate with that energy that took to destroy that dome, and everything pertaining to the idea of those conflicts are not being harmonized. You're just blatantly going to fix this. And now you basically are the conduit for all of that unresolved energy that's there that requires collective agreements. That's basically, quote unquote, the contract that has been signed pertaining to the star system, pertaining to all the inhabitants that exist within the star system, is that you leave well enough alone, because humanity is going through this great experiment right now. Many of us are kept in the dark. I would say almost all of us are really kept in the dark, even though we get a lot of bits and pieces here. A lot of us are kept in the dark, and because of that, there cannot be any particular form of continuity pertaining to reestablishment, to restoration, without our permission. And so basically this is why disclosure is looking to come out so strongly and saying, let's get everybody notified about what's been happening in the star system. Let's let them know about extraterrestrial life. Let's let them know about the moon. Let's let them know that this is a laboratory, that this is a hollow moon, and that it can leave on its own power. It has capability to maneuver. It has capability to the word escapes me. It has the ability to propel itself. Not in regards to the idea of superluminous velocity, but it is able to, I guess you could say, if you were looking at it in Star Trek terms, it would kind of be like an impulse drive, being able to move from different forms of planets and anchoring itself into different gravitational fields. So it doesn't have, warp capability or anything like that. Basically, they would need to attach it to some type of apparatus or some type of phenomena that would trail it in regards to another star system. A lot of these are done with particular comets, again, or even spacecraft as well too. So kind of like a quote-unquote gravitational tractor beam, and being able to take the moon and move it into different places. But if it's something in regards to the local system, it has the capability as that kind of impulse propulsion to move in and nest itself into different gravitational fields. Again, advanced calculations. I'm not a rocket scientist, but that's basically how they're able to nest themselves appropriately into the gravitational field, and being able to prevent themselves from having the moon rotate, and being able to see 360-degree panoramic about what is actually upon the moon. Again, that day is coming. When? We don't know. But, there's that day that's going to be coming where there will be a lot more revealed with the moon. Now, basically, Adronis in the past has stated that two things would happen. One, either an agreement will come together where there is a full disclosure pertaining to what is happening to the moon, and we'll be able to see a lot of it, or two, the moon will leave, and another moon will take its place. It doesn't feel like the second option is viable. It doesn't look like that's going to be the exact one, I feel. It feels like more of the 95% would represent the idea about actually talking about what's on this moon. To my feeling, you can't just remove that moon. That moon has karmic ties to us. So basically the whole feeling was them to create some kind of replica pertaining to the moon. But again, I don't feel that that's really feasible. Just if I'm looking at this on a karmic way. This moon has so much karma pertaining to our star system, pertaining to Maldek, pertaining to Mars, pertaining to Earth, and perhaps, who knows, other forms as well too. You can't just get rid of it. You can't just throw it away, because that is causing a tether. That's causing a tether to break as it relates to energetic relationship, karmic relationship with ourselves. So my feeling, I'd say I'd boost it up more to like 99.9% chance that a lot about the moon is going to be revealed to us, about what's happening there, who is on there, what is up with this type of laboratory, what is the Lunar Operations Command, what is with a lot of these different fleets that are coming in and working alongside the moon, what's with all this activity happening around the moon. We got a lot of explaining to receive. So this, again, is why there's such a push for disclosure, such a push to reveal all of this out, because now as humanity is informed, and everybody on the planet is aware that other civilizations exist. The moon is an artificial satellite and a starship, a spacecraft, and that we once had a fifth planet known as Meldeck, and we had once many different forms of skirmishes here in the star system, lasting hundreds, thousands, or even millions of years. And we're getting all this information about other civilizations, etc. It's going to be a very hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. When people that are watching my program here, Brad, come on, I can handle this, fine. It's good, man, I got this. I research this stuff all the time. Great, because you guys will be needed. All of us, we need each other to really being able to share this information. This is not my job only. This is not the Secret Space Program Insider's job only. This is not some of the experts' jobs only. This is our job. All of us as a community need to take together what we have shared here and pass that through, our generations. But of course, right now, through the people here that are moving from third to fourth density and being able to still function as fourth density beings and helping third density as well along too as well. So again, it's kind of like you're seeing, I'm trying to give a really good analogy here, that if we're looking at a spectrum here, even those that still remain in third density are still getting pushed up a little bit. It's kind of like looking, if this is our particular form of spectrum, when it comes to a third and fourth density aspect. Before, it was kind of like this. We would see that third density was kind of in more of a darker shadow in that way. And fourth density is now coming in, and it's kind of like acting as a polar, like a gravitation. And it's actually moving humanity up the band. So even when there's third density people that remain who do not make the shift in that particular way, they are still moving to such a heightening that there is still not anything pertaining to a very heavy, deep shadow as it relates to third density. So even those people who feel that they've been manipulated or like to manipulate people or are filled with greed or filled with hatred, who want to kill and harm, they're still going to be moving up even a little bit more. Because again, the whole idea is that the Earth has a particular form of gravitation or a certain form of energy pertaining to everything that is coming in through the star system right now as waves through the galactic front. And that there needs to be a kind of cushioning up, a moving up in that way. So even to those people who are still in third density, again, who feel very, very solid and very, very physical and very materialistic, etc., they're still being pushed up an octave. And so this is kind of giving the idea that within the next couple of generations, the Earth will be a full fourth density planet as it pertains to humanity. So again, there still will be a third density because you can't have one density or another. It's kind of like looking at a ladder. We need to have each rung to get up to the next point. So you're going to have a first, second, third, fourth density. The whole idea, again, is that there's more of an effort, again, between now and these upcoming couple of generations for fourth density on humanity's side to really being able to move itself into that way. We're looking at the dolphin energy. Dolphins themselves are third density beings, but they are moving their consciousness up to fourth. Whales are third density beings. Primates are third density beings. And so they are moving themselves, not quite up into the state of graduation of fourth density, but they're moving themselves up into higher octaves so that their own consciousness is compatible. And they're getting these wavelengths coming together with fourth density. And so we're basically the forerunners. We're the stewards to basically adopt a lot of these animals. And basically that they would have second and third density bodies, but they're actually being established into the point of actually having a fourth density consciousness. To working together with us as well too. So that will be coming along. Again, a lot of the Argothan network are filled with fourth density beings, right? And so that's basically what's happening. It's an inversion that's happening. As fourth density is established within the heart of the planet, that is unfolding, and that is basically like a blossoming flower, just starting to impact all of the grids, and now the Earth herself is becoming the full transitional form of a fourth density planet. So again, between the fall and the winter of 2016, we are just starting to see the peak of us moving into fourth density. Still a long way to go. It's not just saying, okay, bam, it's like hitting an orgasm. Boom, okay, whew, I'm done. That's great. Now we're in fourth density. We have nothing to worry about anymore. No, it's not about, the orgasmic transformation into fourth density, right? That is going to happen, but there's still a lot more to do. There's going to be challenges in fourth density. You will still succumb to the idea of certain forms of challenges somewhat similar to what has happened in third density. You're not being bailed out, right? That's not the whole idea here. Is when I go into fourth density, oh my God, everything's fine now. I don't need to worry about anything. No. You're still going to be going through challenges. You're still going to be dealing with certain forms of governmental faculty. You're still going to be dealing with, again, other particular aspects that were third density that are able to transition between the lines of third and fourth. There's a fourth density government. There's a fourth density aspect pertaining to that. So we're not being bailed out here. That's not what fourth density is about. We're transitioning, we're moving ourselves into a new experience, into a new matrix, but we are not being bailed out from feeling that we don't need to worry about corruption anymore, that we don't need to worry about governments anymore. That's not what's happening here. We still have to work with that. We still have to work with governments. We still have to work with politics. We still have to work with money. We still have to work with monetary systems. We still need to work with taxes. All of that still needs to carry itself over. As stated, it's going to take a couple of generations before there is a full fourth density establishment. Once those couple of generations pass, Adronis is again given about 100 or about 50 to 100 years in that particular way. Again, next couple of generations. But once that starts to transition, then we're moving into a true fourth density paradigm. Right now, we're just entering the cusp, and we're now just starting to slightly tip the scale, and now we're kind of peeking our heads in and saying, oh, this is fourth density. Sweet, right? That's how it operates. Again, I'm going off track as it relates to the moon. But again, this is just information that just needs to come out tonight. But again, the moon, I feel, will be one of those very big disclosure points to when we actually start to realize what's happening, what's been happening with the moon for thousands of years, where it's originally come from, from Ursa Minor, and then from the Pleiades, all of that. We need to look into everything with that. Not just the moon, but everything pertaining to the embodiment of our star system. Understanding exactly how galactic community truly operates, because it's nothing like what our space fantasies and our science fiction has told us. Very, very small. That's a lot more of the material end. That's a lot more of the physical and melodramatic end. But there's a lot more. Again, looking into this whole idea that you cannot restore things in a star system with a culture that is still in development, that is still maturing itself. You can't touch anything in this star system to create any kind of restoration. That will have karmic consequence. And so that's something I didn't even know, and just being able to tap this in tonight. So thank you, Adronis, for buzzing into my ear about that and talking about that. So that's great. Okay, let's move on to more of the slides. So again, the moon is an ancient battleground, just basically what I was talking about earlier. Destroyed spacecraft, glass domes, monuments, bridges, structures can be found scattered all across the moon. They have monuments that are several miles high of like these, perhaps, who knows, E.T. gods or again, heroes, whatever it may be. But just several miles in height. Amazing. Intel has suggested that the moon has been responsible for bombarding the Earth with harmonic resonances, maintaining an experimental veil. Okay, so again, Adronis has talked about this in the past as well. Is that the moon has basically been working together with these, has been operated in this way as broadcasting these particular frequencies. Now, Adronis has stated that not just the moon is involved, but our entire star system, but how everything is collectively aligned magnetically is actually generating this particular type of barrier. This is why we're not able to snap our fingers and all of a sudden get a cup of wine here, or snap our fingers and bam, here's a loaf of bread. So there's definitely a suppression energy that has been broadcasting from the moon and is basically harnessing itself through much of the geometric gravitational fronts of every other particular form of stellar body within our star system, and is actually harnessing that energy and blanketing the Earth with this particular veil. Now, again, a lot of stuff has been released because, again, of the amazing clockwork of our star system. But the moon, in that sense, is basically this kind of magnet, in that sense, that's broadcasting this type of magnetic harmonic frequency or frequencies that is keeping us in this particular type of shell, this blanket, and is preventing us from really looking into amazing capabilities. Because naturally, when there is no particular form of satellite or technology that is around a planet, and a planet is able to naturally develop itself with, again, without a lot of the interventions that we've had in the past, beings like that can manifest things like that. It's not an unusual concept. You can go to many different forms of planets, and there's certain forms of beings that will not use technology to manifest things instantaneously. They're kind of in a higher density. And, it's not to say that 100% of the population can do that, but again, it's not such a phenomenal concept. It's being able to look into the idea about a lot of them, in that sense, create together in collectives. They create together in circles in that way, and are able to manifest certain things. Others are, in that sense, rainmakers. Being able to work together as a collective in being able to manifest. Now, it requires a certain form of responsibility. That entire collective must be in harmony as it pertains to the capabilities with that energy. And so some may decide not to use that, but again, there's an awareness of that. And so basically, beings that are just very natural with the earth can do anything to really assist with the landscape. They can bring in cloudy weather and they can allow it to rain. They can, again, do other particular forms of ceremonies, and seeing all these transitions happening very, very quickly, and even in a younger aspect of their age, pertaining to the idea of not like a golden age, but even looking into like their bronze ages, their iron ages, etc. All of that holds capability with a lot of these different forms of beings that are indigenous on this planet, and being able to create these amazing kind of group-based manifestations. So it really is that when the collective is more aware of itself, is more aware of its capabilities, that is a permission slip. That permission slip is now granting the ability for group-based manifestation. It is not the idea that when we move into fourth density, we're like, okay, boom, hey, there's a red car. Boom, here's a 3-story house. Boom, there's a bridge I made across Main Street. It doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't work that way. If you were the only person on the planet, maybe. But it does not work that way, because there's everything pertaining to collective agreement. There needs to be a group mentality pertaining to the idea, rather than just snapping your finger and here's a luxury sedan, or snapping your fingers and here's a 3-story house. It doesn't work that way at all. So basically, this is why there has to be such a disciplinary aspect. There really has to be a harmony and a oneness connection pertaining to nature. And that is really what allows the idea of manifestation, because again, they work together as a group. They manifest together as a group, certain forms of beings in all these different planets. And many of these beings will not have spacecraft. They will not travel the cosmos in any particular form of conveyance other than their own. So they will actually manifest a light body. They will create a Merkaba vessel, and they will actually start to move and transit themselves throughout different worlds and planes. Many different beings in the Pleiades, different beings in Orion, different beings in Lyra, some of our neighboring star systems in regards to populations do that, right? So there are the technocratic aspect of the beings that want to design ships, want to design spacecraft, want to build AI, and want to travel the cosmos. And of course, there are those who will have none of that, who will just do it very, very naturally. But again, they only just touch different forms of spectrums as it relates to their experiences. Earth herself is one of the most grandiose spectrum experiences in existence. So this is why there's so much potential here in regards to us. But that's basically how instantaneous manifestation, if we were to understand it in that way, operates. It is a group collective decision. It's something that's working together in that way. Because that would basically create a power struggle. If you have a person who in that sense can instantly manifest everything, and all of these other people have no clue how to do that, well, this person could be a huge threat pertaining to that. They could also be perceived as a god, right? So this is why there are certain ground rules pertaining to certain planets, that there needs to be an establishment of a group collective agreement as it relates to the idea of manifestation and those capabilities. So this is again why we have the moon around the earth, and is basically creating this kind of frequency blanket that is preventing us from really having one of us as these amazing, powerful, instantaneous manifestors that can actually communicate with atoms and being able to rearrange matter, right? So there are people very, very rare throughout our history that can actually do that, because just the way that we are aligned right now, and that we're still looking to mature, a person can use that for unbelievable advantages, and we don't want that on a planet like this that's evolving. So that's why there has been these types of blankets and frequencies that are preventing such things from happening. So again, that's another particular faculty that the moon holds. Okay, so we're going to go back into the slides here. All right, so now it is time for me to bring in Adronis, and Adronis is going to be talking a little bit more about the moon, and again, he'll be talking a little bit more about other stuff as well too. But this is This will be the point now where I'm going to bring him through. And after I'm done, we'll go into questions. So again, hooray for the chat to be online. Hope you are all enjoying a lot of the information that is being shared tonight. So when I come out of the state, I'll just kind of surf around the Q&A in the chat room and see if there's any particular questions for myself or for Adronis. So what I would say for everybody right now, maybe who has asked questions on the chat, just save your questions. Once we get into the Q&A segment, just go ahead and copy and paste your question into the chat room, and then we'll be just looking over the chat. It's a little bit more easier for me to find the questions as well too once we do that. So I'd say just save your questions for right now, and we'll be getting to them very shortly. So I will go ahead and connect with Adronis, and he will talk more about the moon and again other particular forms of updates or announcements or other phenomena that he wishes to discuss. So I'll be at one moment as I attune to his energy. Here we go. Should I get enough space here? Okay. Here we go. Soul Star Sirius Adronis we are here. At this time, we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. And of course, we would ask all of you at this time to simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius, so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide this evening of your time is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very heart's beings and souls. The enigma known as your moon. Now understand again that this conduit has done a very good job being able to share a lot of the illumination as it pertains to the moon. Now understand that this moon, shall we say, has not had its only first journey acting in this particular form of matter, as it relates to an artificial satellite, as it pertains to a monitoring station or a laboratory, much in regards to those aspects pertaining to, shall we say, its focus upon Earth had been retrofitted as it relates to the experiment on Earth. But very little has changed relating to this moon in regards to its ancient history. That upon the Pleiades, in that sense, it also represented that of a spacecraft. It also represented that of a, shall we say, monitoring station, being able to work together to assist in a unification arc in that particular way, being able to bring about many different beings and work together in different forms of agendas that related to interspecies expansion, genetic products, genetic projects in that way, being able to observe certain forms of planets that related to the aspect and intention of inhabitation, being able to, in that sense, geoengineer different forms of planets as well too. So again, it had many different forms of similar criteria back in those ancient times. But again, this particular moon was built on behalf in regards to that of an open community, and that therefore it decided to move itself into the transit into the area of Ursa Minor, and again being able to perform other particular tasks, something we can't really get too much into because again it has no particular form of involvement karmically with yourselves at this time. But in the best way that we can put it, this too served in regards to very similar aspects as it pertains to what it is doing here in your star system now. Therefore, in that sense, the moon, in regards to all its capability and functionality, and again, energetic compatibility with your own star system, was then transited through Ursa Minor and placed here. And again, its original home was that of Meldak. And of course, it started to work together as, once again, a monitoring station, a particular form of orbiting satellite that would be able to conduct certain forms of experiments genetically. So again, you can understand that this is indeed a community laboratory. That is what the moon represents. And again, this is why it has been hollowed out, because again, there are many different aspects of being that represent themselves inhabiting the surface and the interior of the planet. Now, much of the interior beings in that sense would be very similar to, shall we say, the stewards that also exist within your inner Earth. The inner moon stewards in that sense are basically more so responsible for the idea of the maintaining the integrity of the moon itself, or shall we say, herself. Now, much in regards to the experiments that have been happening, again, all have to do with the 22 different forms of volunteers that are upon your moon at this time. And that, yes, many of your insiders, as you call them, have also shared information as it relates to the idea of what you would know as your Lunar Operations Command, a command center in that particular way, much in regards to, shall we say, a central jurisdiction network that is all part in the idea of much of your inner space operations that are being conducted there upon the moon. Again, there are also other particular forms of resorts, other different particular forms of installations that have also been set beside in regards to continual contractual agreement that basically required a very large, shall we say, contribution from your own species to actually have that brought in. Now, in that sense, if we were to actually reveal what a lot of that particular energy was, that required humanity in regards to, shall we say, very small groups to actually have these particular forms of reserves placed upon the planet, it would not be too pleasant for you to know. It really has to do and function back together with what you would know as your trade upon the idea of an intergalactic exchange. And so in that sense, this is how the beings that you would understand as the Greys or the Zedans in that sense were able to have much leeway pertaining to the idea of much of their experimenting upon the Earth back in those decades past, because of one of these particular agreements that the humans in that sense just let us on the moon. We want to be able to have a presence there. We want to see exactly in the best way possible what many of you are doing. Please bring us into this. In order for you to do that, here's a list of what we would like. No problem, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. And they were all checked off. And basically that type of exchange is the very reason why there are certain forms of installations, establishments, resorts, certain forms of dwellings that are occurring upon the moon that has, again, a very small group upon the moon living there in that sense, working together in that state of establishment. Much in regards to the idea of exchange was negotiated to making that happen. Much of the exchange is not in harmony in regards to what you would know as your Earth human collective. It had related to the idea in that sense that many people had in that sense faced fatalities because of the idea of this particular agreement, just as part of this, in that sense, original program. So that is primarily, in a nutshell, what has taken place. And this is primarily why there are, in that sense, a particular group upon the moon to actually, in that sense, bring about certain forms of associations and other groups that you would understand as the Lunar Operations Command, and being able to bring that upon it because, again, of this established agreement. So again, originally, humanity was told, stay off the moon. This has nothing to do with you. And so again, there had been many different forms of intense negotiations, primarily again with different forms of beings upon the moon, that again, each of the aspects of exchange that came through were to, in that sense, satisfy, shall we say, the aspect of those who were on the moon, and said, all right, fine, humanity can have a little square here as it pertains to the moon's surface. And so again, much in regards to what is happening upon the moon is still not fully divulged even to what you would consider to be your high rogue elite groups. Many of them in that sense are still not very much aware about what is taking place upon the moon. They have only in that sense received a certain state of satisfaction pertaining to the idea of what has been revealed. Understand that many of the people in that sense that are coming forward, that is sharing this particular information, again, are more so in what you would consider to be the bottom rung of the ladder as it relates to this information. Now, we ourselves, again, are only able to share so much as we too represent this type of, shall we say, bottom ladder source, because there has been no permissions given in regards to top hierarchical ladder rungs that can actually be revealed. Once that time starts to come together, we'll be able to boost up our energy and tell you a lot more about the moon. That, in that sense, will definitely be a possibility. But right now, in that sense, because you are still evolving, because you are still at the very cusp of disclosure, and yes, we are referring to grassroots disclosure right now. Everything pertaining to what you know about extraterrestrials, about your ancient history, in regards to, shall we say, ancient beings that have come here and assisted in the shaping of your own planet, relating to much of the sightings that have taken place, relating to much of the meetings that have taken place, relating to much of the extraterrestrial civilizations that are shared to exist, is a tip of the iceberg pertaining to the idea of something that still needs to be revealed to you, something very grandiose. But again, there must be permissions brought forward before that information can come through. Right now, you need to digest the scraps. And basically everything pertaining to extraterrestrials, ancient aliens as you call them, extraterrestrial disclosure, secret space program, etc., are the tip of the iceberg. The very, very top tip, a very small fraction. So there's a lot more to tell you eventually as you start to digest the scraps. And that's basically we refer to it as in this particular way. Now, is the moon going anywhere? Well, again, this conduit shared very pristine information as it relates to the possibility of the moon eventually being disclosed to you. It does have karmic ties. So basically, and the whole idea is that there was an intention to basically, at one particular point, suggested to actually have another particular moon that represents somewhat of a similar embodiment to the moon that you have right now, and being able to swap places. But again, that was basically discarded. It was not based upon the state of collective agreement. So yes, we too would say about 99.99999% chance that there will be the opportunity for more of disclosure throughout your moon that will eventually become more available. As you digest these small pieces, these scraps pertaining to extraterrestrial disclosure. So again, many of you just have to digest much of the base foundation as it relates to a lot of this type of information. And as we have shared with the conduit as well too, is that yes, it is fundamentally true that everything pertaining to the idea of unlawful intervention throughout your own star system was the result of unregulated dimensional travel. Basically beings, we will not name names here, but basically beings that came in and again were completely unhappy with the idea about what was taking place. Now understand that these were beings that you could refer to as seers, and that they were actually able to, through technology, being able to access many different forms of timelines in what many of you would consider to be your great distant future, to get an understanding exactly where humanity was growing. And basically humanity had a very, very bright future, and it still does. But the whole idea in that sense is that they were able to see this particular timeline without any particular type of conflicting intervention relating to the human race. So basically, everything that took place throughout many of your ancient courses of history were all part of strategically planned galactic false flags. And that's basically what happened. They are temporal galactic false flags that were basically coming upon your planet and disrupting much in regards to the course of the harmony of the Earth. Other particular forms of beings that were meant to be watchmen, in that way we will refer to them as, basically became contaminated and corrupted, and even in that sense somewhat replaced, pertaining to many of these different beings that again told them, is this what you really want to do? We can show you power. We can show you something much more than what you have been assigned here. And so many of the different forms of watchmen that were actually here to assist in stewardship of your planet again started to buy into more so in the idea of saying that no, humanity does not need to be the gods. You can be. And so again, this is why there has been so much manipulation and so many different forms of the creation of religions. Religions, again, as many of you know, are control programs. They are all part of something that has been indoctrinated to create such a plethora of so many of these different religions. Again, only creates the further dilution of the pool within humanity. And so everything that happened pertaining to the idea of intervention, unlawful, irregulated intervention, is all part and parcel of these temporal galactic false flags. That is precisely what has happened. And again, this is unheard of in this particular galaxy. The idea in that sense of something that has been so amazingly brilliant to see in another particular dimensional line of what you again consider to be your great distant future about what humanity is going to become, angered many, many, many different beings that were all about control, that were all about anti-free will, and they would not have it. And so basically this was the plan, to basically take this very small fringe star system and being able to make it into a central focal point, to contaminate it, to go to war with any other particular being that would stand in their way. Because if humanity was able to become what it was, the idea of control agendas in this entire galaxy and many other galaxies would be nullified. That's how powerful humanity is. That was the whole idea of this particular experiment, to bring balance to the idea of many different forms of life throughout this galaxy and many others. Humanity itself are balance moderators. You are balance facilitators. That's your purpose. That's why you're here. To reach a state of balance and equilibrium pertaining to yourselves, pertaining to Earth, and pertaining to others that you will come in contact with, as it represents a galactic community. Now, this again also represents the idea that, as this conduit previously shared, that there are skirmishes taking place because, again, many who have volunteered themselves to come here and to donate their own genetic stock, contribute their own stock, pertaining to the idea of human development, was all part and parcel of the intention to see this through. And that the idea that there was so much opposing intervention coming in was, again, very, very shocking. And so, again, this led to skirmishes and saying that our experiment, something that we have invested so much time and energy and capability with, is now being at risk. And so, again, many of these different forms of fleets came in, and again, many different skirmishes ensued. And so this is why there has been these altercations happening for hundreds of thousands of your years, even in the millions. And so again, this is why your star system has been a byproduct of many different forms of skirmishes, conflicts, wars, because of the idea of what humanity can become. And now, because there has been such an effort throughout many different councils, and again, as we stated, that many different councils are indeed responsible for putting together much of these action plans, these behind-the-scenes interventions to ensure that humanity grows. Humanity is very, 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 very important. And so to give, we will leave understanding in regards to how greatness can be established through them. This was all part and parcel of something that represented, again, an arc of knowledge to be passed into future generations, because many of these particular beings that were, again, ancient prophets, ancient mystics, ancient shamans, are now returning back to Earth as incarnated beings here and now. And we can say that approximately 60 to 75% of many of your ancient ascended masters have some type of physical presence embodied into the physical Earth right now. So basically, many in regards to what you would know as your ancient masters, your ancient mystics, many different forms in regards to what you would refer to as your geniuses and your intellects and spiritual teachers have once again passed back here because they want to assist in regards to this karmic uprising, in regards to this karmic reconciliation. And so this is why so many of you, as young children, as young adults, as elders, are now starting to receive many of these different forms of encrypted codes, these gene keys that are now starting to turn and unlock aspects of knowledge through you. And you're bringing all of this back. So again, 60 to 75% of all of these wise ancient masters that have lived thousands and thousands of years ago, who were able to get off the wheel of karma, get off the wheel of time, and ascend back into the idea of their pure essence, have now come back and said, no, we're going to help our brothers and sisters out. We're going to bring them into this elevation, because that is the true love that is in the works. And so this is precisely what is happening upon your planet right now. This is why many of you have the gene keys. And you are now turning those locks, and you are unlocking this. And now you are not even sure about how this is all working, but you realize that something is here. You realize that something is happening. So this goes far beyond your moon. This all comes back into the idea of the very essence that exists within all of you. And that many of you hold such mastery to yourselves that you actually don't even have a clue of how much information you all have the capability of bringing forward. But again, it is much in regards to the contamination, the debris that has been left, that has created the establishment of many of these different systems that are completely inorganic. And so again, understand that through much of your common channels exists the idea of inorganic material. The idea of your politics, the idea of your monetary system, the idea of your government, the idea of your education, the idea of your medicine, the idea of your practices pertaining to the idea of attempting to bring love to people. Many of these, in that sense, have been compromised. It's all going back into the grassroots, and it is the grassroots itself that truly show you this beautiful tapestry of knowledge that is truly there. Look towards the grassroots rather than the idea of your mainstream aspects. The mainstream aspects will eventually come to the point where they will become resanitized and bringing about, in that sense, more genuine information. But if you're truly looking for the idea of something that can guide you to help you looking into yourself and realizing your capabilities, go into your grassroots establishments. That is basically where the nature pertaining to how you are evolving yourselves and developing yourselves and seeing the capabilities within all of you truly exists. And so again, as this conduit has shared, that throughout everything that has happened throughout your star system, in regards to these skirmishes and wars, it is indeed true, these cannot be repaired until there is a full consensus of the star system's collective consciousness to give the idea that these can now therefore be restored. So there is a holdout pertaining to the idea of maintaining the continuity of that which is left in ruin. Because humanity has evolved up to such a point right now where it can notice if many of these different forms of aspects are regenerating itself. If they are being restored, they know that, again, certain forms of action are coming through. But again, that's not the only reason, is because, again, many of you who were part of the Earth plane were also part of different forms of aspects of the star system, pertaining to the times of its inception, pertaining to the idea of its growth, pertaining to the idea of its war periods, and of course then eventually moving upon the Earth. So therefore there must be certain forms of karmic aspects, karmic realignments that are coming together here in order for many of these different forms of aspects of regeneration and redevelopment to be brought into Genesis. And that is the nature here. So again, there must be permission slips brought forward through you and brought forward through the idea of the continuing continuity of those involved who can assist in the redevelopment, the emphasis of bringing about that regeneration, reestablishment, and restoration pertaining to planets, pertaining to the idea of your entire star system. That must happen in regards to consensus. One moment. We are receiving information as it relates to your inner Earth community. There have been certain forms of delegated meetings that have been happening between your inner Earth societies, between, again, certain forms of selected members of your surface-based societies, working together in tandem through your secret space organizations to develop a particular form of negotiation, an agreement in that sense, a basically what you would refer to as a type of galactic constitution. This is basically in the works right now. Now, again, there are certain forms of, in that way, rigid disagreements pertaining to this. But the whole idea in that sense is that there will eventually be an established constitution that will complement the planet, that will eventually bring much in regards to open affairs as it pertains to harmonious development that will actually be permitted. There will also be other aspects within this galactic constitution as it relates to open contact, open communication, as it relates to those who have been appointed delegates within this constitutional agreement, that will therefore bring themselves forward in regards to contact to those who are asking for it. So we can say that for the very first time throughout all of your star system's history, there is a galactic constitution agreement being forged. So again, there are certain forms of representatives upon your planet, many of which you would refer to as your allied energies. There are, again, inner Earth beings, the Argothan network, that is working together with this. There are other particular forms of beings within your secret space program that are also working together in contingency with this. There are also other extraterrestrial beings that, again, hold associations and affairs pertaining to yourselves that are also in agreement with this. Eventually, within the next time, between the years of 2016 to 2018, that it is a very high probability that this constitution will be complete. When this particular constitution will be completed, and again, it may have a little bit of leeway in regards to an additional year or two, just depending on regards to how things go, but that feels right now the most likely aspect. That when this particular constitution is completed, there will be some type of understanding of transformation taking place upon your planet that complements much more of the idea of a galactic welcoming. Something pertaining to the idea of new events taking place that will advance your culture in regards to a further extension pertaining to extraterrestrial life, pertaining to the idea of, in that sense, open contacts. Again, that will take place. So again, we are estimating approximately 2 years, but again, it can change. We would say that it would no longer be any longer in that way than approximately 5 or 6 years in total. But again, we are feeling that within 2016, 2017, 2018, that this will be the core time in regards to the establishment of this new constitution. This is actually a constitution that is going to bring you together into a one united front. We are not talking about a one world government. We are not talking about a new world order. We are talking about a unified global front that works together in different forms of galactic contingency, where there will be certain forms of incognito presences that will again encourage the idea of many of you that are working together with specific guides at this time to notice this incredible great transformation. So something is in the works right now. Again, we are just in the very beginning stages of this galactic constitution that is basically going to be the precursor to eventually open yourselves up to talks, to communication of mentorship. Mentorship that again will come through these particular beings, but again only a select people will only be aware of these forms of transformations because you are still going through a transitional structure here. But basically again there will be certain forms of contacts coming forward, and in that sense more of a grassroots effort to educate people in regards to galactic affairs. So basically what we are saying here is within the next couple of years, a very large door is going to open, and that you are moving more into the idea of a unified global front, a unified galactic front, and that again you are being mentored. Now again, one of these particular forms of civilizations, yes, is that of the Yael, and that they will again be working together with humanity. There will also be other particular forms of human-based extraterrestrial races as well, too, that will be coming on board. But primarily also the idea of your own Argothan network. Again, those who have agreed to again function in these particular forms of capacities to assist humanity in its growth. Again, this will not be mainstream, not for quite some time. But this is going to start off in its grassroots approach. Again, many of you will be worked on individually and in small groups. This is why the intervention fleets have been, in that sense, very, very adamant in regards to those who require assistance, that they will offer a hand. They will lend a hand in regards to service. This is all part and parcel of the development of the precursor of this galactic constitution that is being developed. When this galactic constitution is being developed, this is your beginning signs of moving yourselves into a galactic community, moving yourselves into a galactic-based civilization. So again, right now, the exact time is up in the air, but again, between the time of your next 2-3 years, most likely, but again, stretching out about 5 or 6 years down the road in that particular way in regards to a rough bubble figure. But this is what we want to share with you in regards to what is being directly negotiated with right now. One moment. Now, we are not directly involved with the idea of the Galactic Constitution, though we are receiving, in that sense, open broadcast reports. And this is how we are able to access this information. We are not personally sitting in on any particular meeting, but again, we are only receiving from what is being broadcast, what is being shared with us through the idea of this stream of consciousness, of this stream of information that's coming through. So as we have more updates, we will keep you informed. But again, you are now in the very genesis times of this galactic constitution to become assembled. We will now take the time to move forward with question and answer period. We will now return to the conduit as he will now begin this particular segment. Thank you. Wow. That is huge friggin' news. So that's big. I have been hearing certain forms of reports, again, probably from someone like Corey Good or, again, other SSP insiders as well, too, that there is some type of negotiation going on right now, but there really isn't that much detail. So Adronis spontaneously coming in and sharing this information of the precursor of a galactic constitution that's going to come through that basically holds Earth in this particular regard, pertaining to respectful appreciation. And that, again, it's very much similar to the type of agreements that have been forged on the moon, pertaining to many of these different forms of civilizations that have set up camp and have basically followed this particular truce. Once this particular truce has been either, in that sense, highly in majority voted for, or basically unanimously agreed to, there can be no bent rules about this. This basically means that the governments pertaining to the old world order, in that sense, have to fall in line. So this is very interesting. If this particular galactic constitution comes together for this star system, we are seeing so much prosperity and promise of divinity we can't even imagine. So I'm excited to hear about what happens in the next little while. So apparently from Adronis, within the next 2 to 6 years, that this particular form of galactic constitution will be ready. Again, I'm not too sure how their own quote-unquote political system in this way works, but I'm imagining it's something that requires a major majority or unanimous aspect pertaining to it being developed and brought into fruition. So I will definitely keep you guys involved, I should say, keep you guys informed if any more information with Adronis is shared about the Galactic Constitution. So I'll see if I can definitely do some videos in the near future relating to that. All right. Okay, guys. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to pop up the chat room here. Excuse me. And so if you guys have some questions that you want to ask myself or Adronis, feel free to post your questions here. So I'm just going to kind of scroll up the list here and see what we got. Okay, we have one question here from June Hall. Just going to highlight it so I can read it. June asks, I feel as if my age is regressing, reversing, so to speak. I also feel my teeth and other parts are actually growing back. Is this a part of the ascension process? Good question, June. Let me bring Adronis in and he can share some insight on that. Here we go. We thank you once again, June, for your question. In regards to much of the transformational effects that are happening, that is basically going through with you right now, we can basically state that you are aligning yourself with another particular body in regards to state of agreement, because understand that many of these particular forms of phenomena are not common upon your planet. Basically, what we are stating here is that there is an amalgamation effect. There is basically a whole new aspect of your fourth density body that is melding together with your third density body. And because there is this melding happening, it's again looking at a parallel self that is converging together with you. You can understand this as what you would know as the Mandela effect. And basically what's happening is that you are regenerating yourself based upon another dimensional line that has those particular properties within your own interior aspects of organs and again other functionalities that are being regenerated, and it is melding together with you. So basically the alternate version of yourself that is now comprised within this dimensional line, within this universe, is melding together with what you would understand as your former aspect of self. And because there is this convergence, this amalgamation effect, this Mandela effect that is taking place, you are now seeing the regenerative components coming together to actually see these natural forms of improvements being brought into you. This will still happen for some time. You will notice again that over the span of a year, this will still continue to increase, as it will still take some time in regards to the melding to take place. But this is an amalgamation effect. This is a Mandela effect. This is a parallel version of yourself that is merging and bonding itself together with the former self to make yourself into the present self. So that would basically be our best form of analogy to giving you the understanding. And that is why you are going through great regeneration at this particular time that will continue to progress for approximately 1 year span of your time. Thank you very much. That's cool. Congrats, Jen. That's very cool. All right, let's move on to Rick here. Rick has a question. It says, I had a dream that I was in a spaceship up next to the moon and was looking at the moon through the window in the spaceship. So was I spending time on the moon in this life or another? Well, basically what I could state is that when you're in a dream state, you're going into, again, another particular probable reality. And so it's not to say that your physical body went up there and started taking a look at the moon. It was more so in the idea that your transient body interlocked together with another experience, so you could have something very, very similar to the reality that you understand, where you could go up and take a look at the moon and look out the windows in that sense. And it can often feel, again, as you may know, very, very real. Feeling this very, very deep integration of having that experience, that vividness of being on board the spaceship. Now, I've actually had experiences like that as well, too. Being on board spacecraft or seeing ships fly by and all that stuff in different dream states, and they look incredible. But basically, that's the whole idea, is that there's an integration effect pertaining to that. So if you're feeling that you've had this particular dream, and as you're stating you have, there's, again, a particular integration that's coming together. So that's basically telling me that there's some type of karmic information that's looking to come together into your state of awareness as it relates to connecting with the moon, as it relates to the idea of this type of interstellar travel. So I would suggest, Rick, to really meditate on that a lot more and really just get more insight as it pertains to this, because it feels like there's some residual dimensional memory that's coming together, or psionic memory that is coming back together with you right now and telling you more about this particular type of experience. So look into that a lot more deeper as it relates to meditation. Okay, so here is one from Corey, and Corey asks, Hi Adronis, when we flow into 4D, fourth density, will our lifespans increase? If so, by approximately how much more life will we be able to live? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Corey, for your question. As it relates to the idea of your question, will the lifespans begin to expand themselves? Yes, but not right away. The whole idea in that sense is that there still is a transitional effect that you are moving here into fourth density. As we stated, in that sense, this gives a very good analogy that you're peeking your heads into fourth density and just starting to walk through this barrier and moving yourself just into the cusp of this particular aspect of fourth density. So again, there needs to be a further integration. There needs to be a further, in that sense, melding pertaining to the fourth density, because as we stated, many of you will still try and create certain forms of third density experiences in fourth density, and that you're moving into this new matrix, but you're still creating this particular bubble. It is not a vast bubble, it is not a thick bubble, but it is still something there because you are still attempting to come from a reality and attempting to make sense of a whole new reality itself. So we would say that once there is more of an immersion pertaining to fourth density, you will again have certain forms of understandings as it relates to expanded lifespan. Now here's the whole idea. You have the capability right now to expand much of your life. That actually has a capability. But again, it requires much in regards to transitioning off much of your own modern aspects of habits pertaining to the type of food you eat, maintaining, in that sense, peak health pertaining to the body, being able to, in that sense, perform certain forms of meditative exercises on a daily basis, being able to, in that sense, limit the idea pertaining to the idea of your sexual energy, and ensuring that much in regards to sexual energy and its own form of abuse upon your planet does actually create the ability of reduced lifespan. And so the whole idea in that way is being able to compress yourselves and being able to get off many of these particular forms of, shall we say, modernized habits. That basically, one can actually expand their own life by being more immersed within nature. They actually have the capability that when you're actually eating raw or wild food from the forest itself, this can actually create healing aspects within your own DNA, and that you are actually able to expand your life. The more time that you spend in nature, the more that your life expansion can happen. It cannot really happen as if you are in a very bustling metropolis area, pertaining to, in that sense, a great deal of bombardment of different forms of frequencies that come from much of your technologies. Other particular aspects in regards to, shall we say, heavily polluted thoughts that again are preventing you from feeling your own joy. So basically, the more that you are highly positive, the more that you are, in that sense, serving yourself in the aspect of authenticity, the more that you are contained in nature, the more that you are able to inner reflect with yourself, often through the conduit of meditation, the more that you are able to consume natural foods naturally grown within your own wild kingdoms, the more that you are able to preserve your sexual energy, more so in the idea of the complement to yourself, rather than the idea of what you would know as lustful situations, the more that this actually can increase your lifespan so that you could live up into the totality of approximately 130 to 145 years. Now again, this will eventually expand as there is a little bit more, shall we say, restoration brought upon your planet. If it was indeed possible right now that your particular planet was free of any particular forms of toxins, chemicals, pollutions in this way, and again being able to work together in a society that is much more complementary to the aspect of empowerment, love, and joy, it would not be uncommon to see one of you being able to live up to 200 years old. So again, certain forms of technologies will eventually be developed that can also assist in the idea of the alteration of DNA, and that again the idea of your own internal clock can in that sense be compressed. But the whole idea in that sense pertaining to the idea of life preserving, being able to extend life a little bit further, is no more different than how you would compress a hard drive on your computer. You will have a little bit more space, but basically what you are doing is that the life force is basically something that you cannot get back. You all have in that sense a certain level of replenished life force that is available to you in each lifetime. When you are basically tinkering with the genetics, you are compressing your own system So basically what this is doing is it's stretching out the life force a little bit more, but it is not adding any additional life force. And again, because there is compression there pertaining to the idea of, shall we say, genetic manipulation to tinker with your own internal clock in regards to lifespan, this can in that sense also have other particular forms of aspects pertaining to risk, because the idea of the compression effect. Not something that can be severe, but it is still something that needs to be, shall we say, a little bit more tweaked as it relates to your technology in that future. So the whole idea in that sense is that if by chance you are able to see the time to where a DNA alteration machine is actually coming about and you wish to in that sense extend lifespan, that will relate to a compression effect. That will basically compress much of your genome. And again, that can create certain forms of strains in certain areas. So that is not always recommended. But again, it all depends in regards to what is being brought out. But from what we can detect, that when those particular types of machines come about, there will be the idea of the public form machine that will basically be a compressor. Our particular recommendation would be to go more of the natural route. Because if you go more of the natural route, you are basically unlocking reservoirs within your own body that is able to, shall we say, create less of an effort to, shall we say, exhaust life force. And so basically think of it in the idea of vaults that are being unlocked and being opened and being able to hold a great deal of, in that sense, energetic water in that form of analogy. And you are able to actually extend yourself even up to 200 years. But again, because your planet is going through a great transition at this time, the idea of expansion and extension of lifespan can in that sense still be quite challenging to perform. However, if you were able to perform these steps as aforementioned, then again you can notice that there will be somewhat of an increasing of your lifespan as you open up these vaults and make more room in the idea to where less expenditure pertaining to life force is necessary in order for you to continue to conduct yourself upon this planet. That is what we can share with you regarding to this matter. Thank you. Okay, great. So we're going to take about 3 more questions, guys, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight. Let me see here. I got one here from April. Okay, April says, is it that this is a social experiment to see how long it would take the different races learn to get along? It was on the verge of not working, a being incarnated to help with removal of karma. Well, yes, that's basically the whole idea, is that, again, we're not just looking at human society to basically, quote-unquote, sign this dotted line. It has to do with a lot of these particular forms of beings that has very hard feelings as it relates to humanity. Because, again, as Adronis was talking about, that these beings that were able to become seers and look into the future to see what humanity was going to become, you could almost say it was a type of insane jealousy. And that those particular type of beings are still around. And that because they have some type of karmic ties, they will attempt to blockade this idea of a constitution, right? But I feel that if there's a majority rule in that sense, that they could also be overridden. Again, I don't know galactic politics in that way. I just know that there are, again, certain forms of agreements that need to be done. But I feel that this is also something that is to serve many of the different forms of groups that have been responsible for a lot of the interventions, and again attempting to repair a lot of these interventions so that humanity can get back on track. So it really has to do with everything collectively, from ourselves to many different beings that are working together in our favor and those who are not. So it really just comes down to this collective agreement, because once the official quote-unquote signature has been signed, the idea of intrusive interventions will no longer be permitted. And so basically it will be going down through another lockdown, from what Adronis is telling me right now, is that basically if you're looking at portals, vortexes where all these other particular beings like Jinn, for example, can actually come in and just start wreaking havoc, all of those will be shut down. So basically they will not be able to do that anymore. They will actually have a choice, and they say you can either work to get along with humanity or we will block you out. And that will go the same with extraterrestrials as well, too. So it's not just the jinn, it's not just certain forms of dark elves or fairies in that sense that, again, have played tricks and all that stuff. It's more so in the idea of coming to a collective agreement that if everybody, or again, the most majority of beings can come together and grow up, in that way, I guess you could say, mature themselves, and sign this dotted line, that this will bring about such an expansion and such an incredible aspect of divinity on the planet. But it is for everybody's service, for everybody involved, because we're not just talking about humanity here. We're talking about every particular being that has had some type of association with our planet, particular association relating to our species. This is what we call, it takes two to tango. In this case, it takes many to tango, pertaining to our collective consciousness. There are many different extraterrestrial races that have karmically been left behind here so that they can correct a lot of things. Now, Adronis represents one of these races. Again, they were ones that were here to work together with humanity and help them out. And that's exactly why they're coming back here and saying that there is a karmic aspect of an obligation in that way for us to come through and share ourselves with humanity and bring ourselves through and being able to correct a lot of these particular forms of contaminations that's happening. So this constitution is an agreement that is serving many different parties, not just us. Okay, so that's what I can share about that. Okay, I'm going to look into two more questions here. I'm just going to kind of scroll down a bit. Let's see what we got for two more questions. Okay. Okay, here's a very good question here. I may have to bring Adronis in for this one. I believe Elaine asks, is the Galactic Constitution renewed every time there's a new galactic member? Very good question. So let me bring Adronis a bit in on that and see if he can comment on that. We thank you once again for your question, Elaine. Now understand that basically your constitution on a galactic level is still being developed. This is not what you would understand to be as a piece of paper that is being held as a piece of parchment that is now being kept inside some type of vault. It doesn't work that way. The whole idea in that sense is much in regards to these particular agreements are signed energetically. This is something in regards to an agreement that goes way past the paper and the pen. Now, basically, the whole idea in regards to collective agreement works together in a mass majority level. It is not in that sense 100% unanimous, but it is something in that sense that has a very major majority level to it. And so basically, it's not so much in the idea that other civilizations can just come in here and say, hey, can we be a part of this? No. The whole idea in that sense is that this is why we really can't divulge a lot of information that is happening in different star systems. They are different jurisdictions energetically. And so a new race cannot just pop in here and saying, hey guys, what's going on? Hey, I hear that you're developing this galactic agreement. Can we be a part of it? They have no association together with your planet or your star system, and therefore their aspect of involvement is nullified. Meaning, no, they cannot sign up because it has nothing to do with them. This is a particular form of agreement that is being brought forward as it represents those who are in relationship in some form pertaining to the human race. That is not to say that eventually when you become a galactic culture, you will eventually meet other particular beings who have no idea about your own star system, but are curious. And so understand that when you are in a galactic community, everything is by invitation only. We want to underline that many times. When you start to explore other star systems, you are invited in. You don't just go in there. And you don't just bring yourself and say, oh, that's a nice planet, I'm going to make it mine. You can't do that. There needs to be invitations. This is why, again, that there has been many different forms of carrots that have been dangled by humanity, because beings can't just come on your planet. Doesn't work that way. That is a violation karmically. So the whole idea in that sense is that they need to introduce themselves. They need to bring about some type of invitation. And when there is an acceptance to that invitation, now those particular beings can come into play. So if by chance you feel that you are receiving invitations to go to different star systems, to different dimensions, to different realities, when you become a bred, developed, intergalactic civilization, there will now be, shall we say, particular forms of energetic agreements that will be interwoven between those particular species and yourself that will create this particular type of agreement. but it does not work in the idea of what you would know as your Star Trek, where they basically go to different star systems and just invite themselves in. Doesn't work that way. Many different star systems have their own particular types of quote-unquote constitutions and jurisdictions. And this is again because there is that respect of a treaty that at times we cannot share information relating to the idea of other star systems or species or races. It is all based on the idea that in that form of analogy, energetically, we are ringing the doorbell and we are asking, these particular human beings are very interested in your culture. Would it be all right if you can share some information? Now, some are very happy to, and some want nothing to do with you. And so basically they will close the door saying, no, thank you. That's how it operates. That's how it works. This is why, again, you've only had, shall we say, a very small, sparse understanding of different races in regards to that means. Some are very cooperative and want to tell you about themselves, such as the Pleiadians, such as the Sirians, such as the Andromedans, the Arcturians, the Vegans, etc., the Lyrans, because they are family. They relate to you. They have associations with the star system. And so more of that particular type of energy can be shared. But many other different stars within your galaxy are not ready to involve themselves with you. They may be aware of you in that sense. They may hear about you throughout the telepathic grapevine in that way. But they are not in that sense involving themselves in this particular way, because many don't want to get involved. They want to wait until there is a certain time where you have evolved yourselves enough where there can be negotiations, where there can be invitations coming together in that particular way. That is how galactic community truly works. So it is not the idea of saying, oh, there's a nice star, let's go over there and let's start to colonize a planet. No, it doesn't work that way. You must have invitation, you must have agreement, you must have cooperation. That's how it works. That is how karma brings the state of balance together. That is equivalent exchange. And that is what we want to share with you. So again, the short answer to your question is no. A new member cannot just pop in and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. No. There must be invitation. We thank you very much. All right, great. This has been a wonderful show, guys. I'm really enjoying it. Okay, so I'm going to take this last question here from Umar. And Umar asks, invisible bird-sounding beings are around me. What info does Adronis have? Okay, just for the record, guys, because I get this a lot. A lot of people keep spelling Adronis as A-N-D-R-O-N-I-S. Guys, there's no N there. There never has been an N there. And I keep getting so many people that come to me and say, yeah, what does Adronis have to say? Like, who the hell is Adronis? Guys, it's A-D-R-O-N-I-S, just in case people are wondering, because I get people confused about that. Is it Adronis, or is it Adonis, or is it Adronis? I say, well, how do I spell it in the videos, guys? A-D-R-O-N-I-S. That's how you pronounce it. So anyways, just want to put that out there, because I'm just noticing that there's been such an increase of Adronis words, names in that sense. And that's not the energy that I channel. If you were actually to channel Adronis, you would get a completely different being. You would not get Adronis. So just want to make that clear for everybody. Okay, so again, he asks, invisible bird-sounding beings are around me. What info does Adronis have to share? Okay, thank you, Umar. I'll share with, I'll bring Adronis in and see what he has to say. We thank you, Umar, for your question. If you are discovering that there are other particular forms of birds or bird-like entities that are quote-unquote invisible, this represents your own guides. Now again, this represents a type of avian race. Now we're not referring to the quote-unquote blue avians that your own Corey Good in that sense is familiar with, but it is in that way other particular forms of interdimensional beings that exist on another parallel Earth that are actually intersecting with you. Now, basically, these in that sense represent a family connection. We feel, again, that they are working together with you, but they are natural healers. You would see them very similar to shamans. So you can simply refer to them in that sense as avians in that particular way. They are somewhat humanoid in that particular way. They reflect more into the idea of the energy that you would know as a type of sparrow. And so basically that represents a sparrow humanoid formation. But they basically come from another particular Earth. And that much in regards to the noises and sounds that you are hearing are in that sense calibrations that are happening. They work again very much like your shamans. So again, they do not use technology in that particular way. They are a natural species existing in a different parallel Earth that again have some type of association with your energy. They have a relationship with you. And again, our particular aspect would be family returning to you to assist in the idea of realigning yourself into becoming more congruent with their energies and your own states of expansion that are happening as you continue to transition into the shift. We thank you very much for your question. We want to thank all of you once again this evening of your time for the opportunity of this interaction. I am Adronis, Adronis, just saying, in that form of a humorous way, of Sirius. Thank you very much. And we now return to the conduit. We will speak to you again, as now is forever, and all is one. Goodbye. All right, Adronis, thank you so much. Love you, brother. All right, and I love you guys. Thank you so much. A really amazing show tonight. Just incredible information that's just coming through again. Kind of Adronis just buzzing in the back of my ear, telling me a lot of the stuff that even goes beyond the moon, from which was our subject tonight. So I want to thank everybody here tonight for joining me on the webcast tonight. Next week we have a special guest, Zion Zeta, and I believe she's on the chat tonight. So Zion, hello. And Zion is going to be talking to us next week on the Reality Whisperer Webcast, and it's going to be about contactee experiences and other particular beings as well, and we may even take some readings as well. In 2 weeks' time, I have another special guest known as Jim Gerard. I hope I pronounced his last name right. And he is going to be talking about dice divination and also the hyperdimensional resonator. So we're going to be talking a lot about dimensional travel, astral body, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about the dice divination, a new method that he has created, and he's going to be sharing that with us as well too. So we got an exciting 2 weeks planned. Also coming up in July is my next pay-per-view webinar, which is called Astral Creations. It's actually going to teach everybody how to create thought forms and actually how to create technology in astral realms so that you can actually use that in day-to-day life. That can increase health, that can increase intelligence, that can increase memory. I'm just getting all this information from Adronis. He's going to be teaching most of the class, but he's going to be teaching about these certain forms of technology that you can create in the astral realms and being able to create an anchor physically pertaining to those particular types of technologies and how to use them to remarkably transform your life. So that is going to be the next pay-per-view webinar. It is called Astral Creations. I'm going to have a poster up on my Facebook. If you guys are still wondering what my Facebook is, you can just go to facebook.com/BradJohnson79. Okay, that's facebook.com/BradJohnson79, all one word. And you guys can feel free to friend me because I put a lot of updates on Facebook. And so the poster will be up on Facebook here probably by tonight or tomorrow. And I'll have more information on the event coming up here within about the next, it'll be tonight or tomorrow, one of the two. Anyways, thank you everybody for being on the call here tonight on the webcast. I really appreciate it, and sorry again for the technical difficulties coming onto the show. But thank you again, and I'm looking forward to next Tuesday with our next episode. Have a great evening, day, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and talk to you next week. Namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.